Maps are full of information about the world we live in, and different kinds of maps can help us see different information. Political maps show us the boundaries and borders of different countries or states, and can even include cities and towns too. Physical maps show us the physical characteristics of the land, like mountains, rivers, lakes, and canyons. Road maps show the freeways, highways, and byways that crisscross the area, while climate maps show where the rain falls and what the temperatures are like. Globes are actually a type of map, and really, they are the most accurate type because they're three-dimensional and shaped just like the Earth. That means that the land doesn't have to be distorted to make everything lay flat. A globe is great for understanding hemispheres, time zones, and imaginary lines like the equator or the international date line. But they're less great for traveling or seeing places close up. No matter what kind of map you choose, they all have several tools to help people use them. The compass rose shows the cardinal directions, north, south, east, and west. The map key explains the symbols that can be found on the map. For example, gas stations might be represented by a fuel pump, or campgrounds might be shown using a picture of a tent. Finally, you may notice that many maps are covered in lines, like a grid. Lines of latitude are called parallels and run east to west, parallel to the equator. Lines of longitude are called meridians, like the prime meridians, and run north to south. The squares created by these imaginary lines help us measure distance and record locations like streets and addresses do. Maps and globes are amazing tools.
Where are you in the world right now? You are probably in your classroom at your school. Your school is in a neighborhood in a city. Your city is in a state. The state is in a country. And your country is on a continent. 7 continents cover Earth. Whew. Now, where exactly did you say you were? People need to be able to describe where they are located. Sometimes you need to describe about where you are. Sometimes you need to describe exactly where you are. Because of this, people have found ways to describe their position on Earth. More than 4,000 years ago, people began using maps to show what the world looked like. Maps are information tools. We can use maps to find and study certain places. Maps are models of Earth and its features. People who make maps are called cartographers. These map makers use points, lines, symbols, and color to explain details on the maps. Maps are always drawn on a flat surface. Earth isn't flat, though. Sometimes this makes a map hard to understand. That's why globes were invented. Long ago, people did not understand the shape or size of Earth very well. Explorers began to gather good information about Earth's features. Map makers began to show the world as a sphere. These special maps are called globes. Globes are great tools. On a globe, the places on Earth are in their correct positions. Globes show the correct shape of continents and bodies of water. Early explorers liked to use globes because they were easier to understand than maps. Today, people use both maps and globes. There are many different kinds of each. They can be used to find out all kinds of information about the world. Maps can help you learn about places and the people who live there. Knowing how to read maps is important. In this issue, you'll find out how to use maps and globes to learn more about the world and people. And the next time someone asks where you are, you'll have a great answer. Have you ever heard or read a news report about a certain place and wondered where it is? Mapping the news can help. This is a fun way to learn geography and keep up with things that are going on in the world at the same time. Here's how it works. Your teacher will put a world map on a bulletin board in your classroom or in the hall. Once a week, students can bring in news articles to share with the class. Ask your parents to help you with that part, especially if you get your news articles from the internet. Also, do some research before you get to class to get a general idea of where the place is located. In class, talk about each article and the place where the event happened. Find that place on the world map and mark it with a push pin or a sticker. For example, let's say your friend brings an article about a mountain climber who reaches the top of Mount Everest on the border between Tibet and Nepal. She found out that those two countries are in South Asia. That will help you find Mount Everest more quickly. Try mapping the news for several weeks. Then get into groups and make up a game that involves the places you mapped. Playing the game will help you remember what you learned. Have fun mapping the news. Maps. There are many different types of maps. Not all maps look alike. They look different because they are used for different reasons. Cartographers often start with two basic types of maps. Then they add other information. Many maps start as either a physical map or a political map. Physical maps show what the land looks like. These maps show the borders of places. Borders are the outside edges of a place. Physical maps also show bodies of water and use different colors to show how the land looks. Another type of map is the political map. This type of map shows countries and states and their capitals. Borders are clearly marked. Political maps also show major cities in the states and countries. Many political maps use different colors to show different places. Even though there are different types of maps for many different purposes, most maps have a few things in common. Maps have a title, a map key, a compass rose, and a scale. Many maps also include a grid. Title. Maps have titles, just like books. The title of a map tells you the subject of the map. You can use the title of the map to help you decide if the map will give you the information you need. What type of information will you find in this map? Map key. The map key is an important part of the map. On most maps, the key is in a small box somewhere near the edge of the map. The key explains what symbols on the map stand for. Symbols are drawings or pictures on a map that stand for real things. Symbols can be colors, patterns, lines, or special marks. They can stand for one thing on a map, but mean something else on another map. It is important for you to study the map key before you begin using any map. Look at the map key. Find the symbol for the national capital. Where is that symbol on the map? Compass rose. The compass rose is a small drawing on the map that will help you find directions. It usually shows the four main, or cardinal, directions: north, south, east, and west. A compass rose can also help you find the directions that are between the cardinal directions. These directions are called the intermediate directions. They are northwest, southwest, northeast, and southeast. Find the compass rose on the map to the left. What direction would you travel from the state capital of Texas to the national capital? Map scale. The map scale helps you compare distances on a map with the real distances in the world. You can use a map scale to help you find how far it really is between places on a map. Look at the map scale on the map to the left. How many miles are shown by 1 unit of scale on the map? Grid. To make it easier for you to find specific places on a map, cartographers sometimes add lines that cross each other in a pattern. This pattern of crossing lines is called a grid. The lines form boxes on the map. Each box is named by a letter and a number. Find the row and column for the area of Texas that contains your city. What box name, letter, and number best describes where you live? Globes. Globes are models of Earth. You use a globe in much the same way you would use a map to find places on Earth. Globes show the North and South poles. The globe also shows the imaginary line that circles the Earth at its center. This line is called the equator. Texas is in the country of the United States. If your classroom has a globe, find our country on it.
The Earth is a sphere. The top and bottom of the Earth are the North and South poles. On a map or globe, a grid line, known as the equator, is drawn exactly halfway between the poles. Grid lines are found on many maps. Any location on Earth can be described using these grid lines. The equator is the starting point for measuring with lines of latitude. These lines are always drawn east to west around the Earth. They are always the same distance apart, and they never meet. Lines above the equator are labeled N for north latitude. Lines below the equator are labeled S for south latitude. The equator itself is labeled 0 degrees, or 0 degrees. Each latitude line is labeled with a degree number. The larger the number, the farther north or south from the equator the line is. There are also lines that run north and south on a map. These lines are called lines of longitude. Lines of longitude run from the North Pole to the South Pole. Longitude lines meet at the poles. These lines get further apart at the equator. The line of longitude labeled 0 degrees is called the prime meridian. Lines to the west of this line are labeled W for west longitude. Lines to the east of the prime meridian are labeled E for east longitude. These lines are numbered by degrees in the same way the lines of latitude are numbered. You can use these grid lines to describe an exact location on a map. Find a location to describe. What lines intersect or cross closest to the location? Use the names of these lines to describe the location.
Christopher Columbus was born in Genoa, Italy in 1451. He began sailing on ships as a youth. He loved to travel and explore. When Columbus grew older, he settled in Portugal and was married. Sadly, his wife died in childbirth. He had a son named Diego. Many have believed that it was Christopher Columbus who discovered that the world was round, but it was actually ancient Greeks that did. Columbus was curious, though, and he wanted to see it for himself. He also knew he would be rich and famous if he found a faster route for India and European trade. He asked King John II to fund his exploratory voyage, but he was turned down. He asked the Duke of Medina, Sidonia, and was once again told no. Lastly, he asked Queen Isabella of Spain.
She did not immediately agree to provide the funds for the voyage, but after nearly 6 years, she agreed to fund 3 ships and crew. On August 3, 1492, Christopher Columbus set sail from Spain with his 3 ships, the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria. Land was sighted on October 12, 1492. Columbus believed it was the East Indies, but in fact it was what we now know as the Bahamas. He was so sure it was India that he called the native people Indians, and that is how we came to call them Native American Indians. Christopher Columbus then returned to Spain to tell the king and queen of his travels. He came back with gold and captured Indians. The king and queen didn't expect Columbus to return, but were happy when he did. They sent him on more exploratory voyages across the ocean, and each time he came back with more information on the lands he was discovering. Soon more countries heard of Spain's Columbus, and they too sent out their explorers to claim the lands across the ocean. Christopher Columbus's explorations marked a turning point, and his findings started a new age of discovery.
Christopher Columbus was an explorer from Italy who lived in the past. He explored the world more than 500 years ago. As a boy, Christopher was curious about the world. He asked many questions. The world was a sphere. Christopher Columbus was an explorer from Italy who lived in the past. He explored the world more than 500 years ago. As a boy, Christopher was curious about the world. He asked many questions. He wanted to know what the world looked like. He studied maps. He likely thought the Earth is smaller than it actually is. Christopher studied hard. He learned different languages. He learned how to sail a boat. He used the sun and stars to find his way. He studied many different maps and globes of the world. Christopher wanted to sail around the world. He wanted to trade goods. Christopher asked the King and Queen of Spain for help. After a long time, they gave him money and ships for his trip. During his journey, Columbus confirmed that the world was a sphere. He also found land that people in Europe didn't even know existed. This land was North America. Other explorers followed Columbus. Times began to change. People began communities on the new lands. They started trading goods.
Earth is a sphere. Hemi is a prefix. It means half. So, a hemisphere of the Earth is half of the Earth. Half of the Earth is above the equator. This is the northern hemisphere. Most of the Earth's land and people are here. Half of the Earth is below the equator. This is the southern hemisphere. You can also divide the Earth in half along the prime meridian. The United States is in the western hemisphere. China and Russia are in the eastern hemisphere. Earth is tilted. Because of this, seasons are opposite in the northern and southern hemispheres. While you're celebrating winter in December, boys and girls who live in the southern hemisphere are just beginning their summer vacation.
A calendar helps us keep track of days. You probably go to school on the days Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Saturday and Sunday are days you don't go to school. Put these 7 days together and you have 1 week. If you put 4 weeks together, you get what is called 1 month. When is your birthday? If someone asks that question, what do you say? You might say April 2nd or July 31st or October 24th. The words April, July, and October are the names of months. There are 12 different months. They are named January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, and December. Did you hear the name of your birthday month? Every one of those months has about 30 days in it. If a birthday is on September 13th, that means it is on day number 13 in the month of September. If you put 12 months together, you get what is called a year. If someone asks, "How old are you?" how would you answer? Maybe you say 5 or 6 or 7. Your age tells others how many years you have been alive. How many years do you think your teacher has been alive? Probably a lot of years.
Have you ever heard the saying, "Time flies"? It means time is passing very quickly. We can measure time. Clocks measure seconds, minutes, and hours. Calendars measure days, weeks, months, and years. Anything that has already happened is in the past. Anything that is happening now is the present. And anything that will happen, a minute from now or 1,000 years from now, is the future. Things that happened a very, very long time ago happened in ancient times. Things that happened more recently happened in modern times. An ancient event could have happened thousands of years ago. A modern event could have happened last week or hundreds of years ago. Sometimes people need to know more about when an event happened. Then we can use words like year, decade, or century. In what year were you born? Any way you say it, time always flies when you're having fun.
Study this map and complete the following activities. 1. What type of map is this? Political or physical? Explain how you know it is this type of map. 2. Choose a good title for the map. Write the title where it belongs on the map. 3. Find the compass rose on the map. Label it with the cardinal directions. North is already marked for you. 4. The grid system for the map has not been completed. Study the grid system and add the rest of the labels for the grid. 5. What is the symbol for the national capital? Add the symbol and its meaning to the key. Fill in the rest of the key. 6. Find and name the national capital of the United States. 7. The Mississippi River is more than 2,300 miles long. Find and trace this river with a colored pencil. 8. Find the Rocky Mountains on the map. How many U.S. states include part of the Rocky Mountain Range?